Hey, I am John of Video Games and the World. Have you ever been part of something that you thought it was right to be a part of but realized that it's no better than something you sought to flee or fight against? Have you ever thought that certain groups and their opponents are two sides of the same coin? If you did, then you are not alone. A year ago, I made a video titled, Why SJWs and Anti-SJWs Are Two Sides of the Same Coin, which is my criticism of both sides. Link in the description. I never thought that my video would have such positive feedback and people who experience how the Anti-SJWs are a lot worse than the ones they swore to destroy. So now, it's time for me to tell you my story on how I got into that circle and then got out of it. Before Video Games and the World, I had another YouTube channel where I used to upload playthroughs only. I started it in 2008, when I was 21 and a half at the time. Link in the description. At first it was playthroughs without commentary until I bought a microphone and started making commentary gameplays in early 2012 as well as game news. In 2016 I started this channel in the hopes of making a career out of it, but I don't think it's going to happen quickly. Because of course, things take time. If I cannot make it, there's always something better than this public life. Anyways, in 2014 I remember hearing about Gamergate, which was about ethics in gaming journalism. It was hijacked and messed up. I was never a part of it, but I didn't like Anita Sarkeesian since she thought games were sexist due to the following. Skimpy clothing was sexist, a man saving a woman was sexist, and games with the choice of killing both men and women equally was sexist. Not to mention that she's the type of person who says, agree with me blindly, and if you don't, you're harassing me and you're a horrible person who should lose everything. It's like she thinks she is the final arbiter of what is acceptable and unacceptable in entertainment, and whatever she says has to be blindly obeyed and listened to. Now, listen and believe, it's very, very dangerous. Because blind belief, nothing good ever comes out of it. It doesn't matter if you blindly believe in an ideology or a religion or a social political cause. No good ever comes from blindly believing and swallowing everything you are told is true, because not everything is true. Now, if stuff like that really bothers you, don't watch it or play it. But it's really sad how artists are forced to cave in, and it feels like the days of the Inquisition. A modern day Spanish Inquisition, if you ask me. For the record, I'm a believer of gender equality. I just don't side with the toxic type of people that says, kill all men are rapists, and it's only sexist when men do it. I don't stand for these things that I mentioned just now. And I cannot stand a bunch of virtue-signaling hypocrites either. Because most of the white knights and simps preach and hope to score points and sexual pleasures, and a majority of them have creepy intentions. Let us not forget that they seek to make the lives of certain groups of people more difficult and miserable, and calling it social justice. Now, what is social justice? Social justice is about striving for a more fair and equal society. That's a good thing. Now, if you take out the warrior word near social justice, then it's much better. Because SJWs, or NPCs, as they are called, denigrate what social justice and feminism are all about. That's when I jumped into the Anti-SJW bandwagon in 2014, watching Anti-SJW content by various YouTubers such as Amazing Atheist, Repsian, Chris Ray Gunn, Steven Crowder, Karen Strom, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Review Tech USA, Thunderfoot, Shuan Head, Alpha Mega Sin, Monday Matt, and many more. Now, some of them that I mentioned, they stopped. But Crowder and Shapiro and Rubin, and they got so far right. Now, Dave Rubin's talk about authoritarianism inspired me to make an episode about authoritarianism in video games, but more of him later when I talk about how I left. So I even got more involved in the Anti-SJW circle after the Sammy070 incident over a Steven Universe fanfic. The idiots showering her with death threats and telling her to kill herself. That was just completely fucked up. I also remember watching the 36 questions video from BuzzFeed, Decoded, and I was like flabbergasted and felt that they were perpetuating such issues using identity politics. BuzzFeed has a reputation for its misandry and stupidity indeed. Now, fighting against racism and sexism is the right thing to do, because they're both degenerate, deplorable, and disgusting. However, at the same time, saying who can be sexist and racist and who cannot be because of outward appearances and gender was nothing more than adding fuel to the fire. That's how I got more involved in the Anti-SJW circle. I hated how Blizzard caved into censoring Tracer's original pose, the X-Men Apocalypse billboard, because of a bunch of SJWs crying like babies because their freaking feelings were hurt. Regarding the X-Men Apocalypse billboard, if it was a man getting choked, no one would mind. But since it was Mystique getting choked, they say, "Oh my god, violence against women!" You kidding me? Not to mention buzzwords such as microaggressions, cultural appropriation, and how masculinity is toxic got me involved more and more into that circle. Because I do not believe in the so-called cultural appropriation. Because it's like saying that only Asians should be practicing martial arts. It's also like saying that only Italians should wear Gucci, Armani, and Versace. It's like saying that only Latinos should be dancing Latino music. If these were the cases, why is Jeremy Lin in the NBA? Why all these non-Italian models are wearing Gucci, Armani, and Versace? And why hasn't Dancing with the Stars been cancelled? Crazy, right? To SJWs, everything is a microaggression.
Did I just hear someone use a microaggression?
I became involved because I hate censorship of art because people are offended by it. Thing is, these people get offended for the sake of being offended. They often pose as ally, friend, and benefactor of those they claim to care about, such as LGBTQ people, women, and minorities. But when LGBTQ people, women, and minorities disagree with them, the SJWs harass them, thus proving how hypocritical they can be. SJWs want people to agree with them without question or have their livelihoods threatened by going on Twitter and saying fucked up shit about them if people disagree with them. I also hate how game designers, writers, movie directors, comic writers have to cane into these people who love to claim the moral high ground, and it's sickening when they bend a knee because they were so offended. That's how I got involved in the Anti-SJW circle. I still hate how they want to push political correctness into everything for the sake of quote-unquote morality, quote-unquote representation, and quote-unquote avoid offending others. Like Apu, for example. Why do you think so many shows became popular based off insulting stereotypes? Because comedy is a reflection of truth, and if you lie about it, then it's not funny anymore. Another example, Pepe Le Pew. Removing him off of Space Jam 2 was stupid because according to the asshat who had him banned, promotes rape culture. Here's the thing, in many episodes, the script is turned and Penelope ends up being the one chasing him. Then Sleeping Beauty and Snow White bash because the princess kissed them, quote-unquote, without consent when they were under a sleeping spell where they can only wake up with a kiss. It's stupidity at its worst with all this political correctness. That's my beef with SJWs, aside from game developers simping to Sarkeesian and caving in because it's offensive to that vocal minority. What's really funny is, many who simped for Sarkeesian were discovered to be virtue signaling cribs with so many skeletons sitting in their closets. Now, SJWs claim to care about the environment, racial equality, gender equality, and LGBTQ rights. It's not wrong to care about such things, because I do support racial and gender equality and I'm a supporter of LGBTQ rights and same-sex marriage, but the methods of the SJWs are wrong. Why? Because they claim to care about such issues to the point that they become so obsessed with political correctness that they want to implant the backwards values of a certain ideology and a certain religion for the sake of multiculturalism. Not to forget, they like to dox people who disagree with them as a way to justify their fight for social justice, which is not the right way. SJWs are nothing more than irritating, unethical, and arrogant people that denigrate what feminism and social justice are all about. Because they are the type of people that, quote-unquote, pity the rest of the world and see themselves as, quote-unquote, saviors. Some people like my friends and family would warn me this, that they know how much I despise SJWs and how irritating they are with their self-righteous, moral supremacy, victim mentality, and prudish attitude to be careful fighting those people. Because when you fight monsters, you might just end up becoming one. That's how as much I was involved with the Anti-SJW circle. But then, Donald Trump happened. Now, I hated both candidates in 2016 since they were both bad. The truth, now that will blow my mind. While I was in the circle, what made me question it was them supporting Trump. Now, not all anti-SJWs were supportive of Trump, but those who were supporting him made me question if I was on the right side. Even Dave Rubin himself, who I used to watch a lot, sided with Trump, and I didn't like that. I've said in my video of why I was against Trump in my So Biden Won video, link in the description. When Trump won, I was not happy, but I was going to give him a chance, and he failed to prove himself with all the name calling on his opponents, family separation, travel ban, military ban, the pussy grabbing, and so on. In 2017, I decided to follow what I was told by friends and family because fighting monsters can make you into one. I remember when Zoe Quinn went after Censoring all because his views did not align with theirs, or hers. I spoke about it, and it sucks how Zoe Quinn had him canceled for that. Now, like I said, I ain't with Gamergate. It was hijacked, to be honest with y'all. The August Ames incident truly pissed me off as well. You see, SJWs say that a woman should choose what to do with her body, but in this case, she refused to do a scene with an actor who did gay scenes, and they attacked her, proving how hypocritical they are. I remember it only too well. Now, when it comes to the anti-SJWs, they have become the very thing that they swore to destroy. Anti-SJWs, when a comedian says that he or she is a feminist, they get livid with rage. And also, like David Cross making fun of the anti-PC crowd, they get all pissed off about it. And here's examples of how anti-SJWs became the very thing they swore to destroy. In late 2017, I remember when Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus was released. Many of the anti-SJWs review bombed the game because they believed that the game was SJW propaganda, since Horton was a socialist and had communist flags in his room. If you have played the game, you all know what I'm talking about. As time went by, I realized that the anti-SJWs were just as self-righteous as the SJWs themselves. Like, for example, when it comes to the movie The Last Jedi, most anti-SJWs be like, The Last Jedi is SJW propaganda. And the SJWs be like, The Last Jedi was a good movie, you just hate women and people of color, you man baby. I made my own review 4 years ago. I decided to make my own review and not read the reviews from the mainstream media and the anti-SJW media. I didn't like the death threats against Kelly Marie Tran, because that was just not right. Now, sending death threats to actors over a fictional character is just not cool at all. While still in the circle at the time, now that I look back, I feel kind of bad for my somewhat bias with the Black Lightning show season 1, but after seeing it again, and also learning some things from friends and family, like that scene in Black Lightning when Anissa and a few others was vandalizing the statue of a Confederate general, well, they would say, John, you have to understand that Confederates were traitors. Now, the thing is, I wasn't educated much about American history because I lived in another country from my childhood to my late adolescenthood. But after watching Black Lightning Season 1 again, I'm kind of at peace with it. Just at peace. Some of my friends and family members would say to be more middle ground. You don't have to be one-sided, because most times when you're one-sided, you'll end up becoming the self-righteous asshat you despise so much. I remember when I made my black characters in video games and black game developers, someone accused me of being anti-white, when my episode was all the contrary. I wasn't bashing white people like SJWs most of them white tend to do all the time with their self-hating, self-harming, and self-righteous attitude. With their white guilt, of course. I felt that the anti-SJWs were going more and more to the right. You see, whenever I express how much I dislike the Ghostbusters reboot, gender banding, and race banding of established characters, SJWs would call me, "You alt-right!" If I criticize Trump, I'm called a lefty or a libtard, and these mentalities, they suck. If I don't like Birds of Prey, Anita Sarkeesian be like, "Birds of Prey is a fun movie, you just hate women." And now, if I did like Birds of Prey, the anti-SJWs be like, "You damn SJW, ooh, you simp." On both sides, I hate that type of mentality. Dios mío. Cabrones. Now, I remember when they were calling the Arrowverse SJW propaganda in 2017. Now, Green Arrow called himself a social justice warrior, but not exactly the one that makes angry tweets and angry blog posts. I remember watching Crisis on Earth X, and I do not see that crossover as SJW propaganda. Sure, the Arrowverse can get preachy and overtly political from time to time, but they are good shows in some ways. For some reason, Crisis on Earth X reminds me so much of the Justice League cartoon episode, The Savage Time. What happened in Crisis on Earth X? What happened in Crisis on Earth X? Well, the Nazis won World War II. They ruled the Earth for years, and the depiction on how they would rule with an iron fist, killing people they labeled as undesirables, was totally accurate. Because remember, the Nazis hated not only Jews, but those who did not perfectly fit in what a person should look like. And also, Russell Tovey's character said, for loving the wrong person. Because Nazis, they hated anyone that wasn't Aryan and labeled them as undesirables. Jews, Africans, homosexuals, you know. Not only that, but when Sari was introduced, the anti-SJWs were so livid with rage because they included a female Muslim hero to spite Trump. They believed that this type of inclusion was political. By the way, there are Muslim superheroes too, you know, like Simon Bass, Kamala Khan, Barack, Dust, Josiah X, etc. My favorites are Simon Bass and Kamala Khan. Anyways, I distanced myself from that circle, but then returned when these SJWs were celebrating the death of Total Biscuit, who lost his battle to cancer. Now, I know it's not right to say this, but I feel like I wanted to punch those known SJWs in the face for saying that. Because as a person who lost friends and family to cancer, it really pisses me off when someone celebrates that kind of death. It doesn't matter if that person's beliefs match or didn't match with yours. It's just not right. But still, I wasn't feeling quite right in the circle because the anti-SJWs were seeing SJWs everywhere, while the SJWs accuse anyone who disagreed with them of being Nazis and bigots without any proof that they are. Both sides to me were just bad. I felt that anti-SJWs were becoming too self-righteous as the ones they oppose. Whenever a stand-up comedian made fun of the anti-PC crowd, as said earlier, the antis will call him or her an SJW. Stand-up comedy is supposed to be making fun of everybody and everything. Whenever there was a female lead, LGBTQ character, or black lead, they would be so livid with rage, thinking that it's political, when it's not. I remember when I saw the trailer of The Last of Us Part 2 when Dina and Ellie were kissing, people thought it was all part of a hidden agenda or something like that, you know? I also remember when Apex Legends had included LGBT characters, they bashed the game simply because that type of inclusion was political and SJW propaganda. One guy I remember saying feared that his son would become trans for using mostly female characters in the game. Dude! It doesn't matter if you're male or female, use a character that you want, bro. As a child, I remember playing the female characters in Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat because I thought they were so damn cool with the moves and all. Then Wolfenstein Youngblood is released, and these people be like, "Ree! Just until Blazkowicz or SJW propaganda!" Other things I remember that SJW said were things like, "Woke is said in a video game? This is SJW propaganda!" I'm talking about Mortal Kombat 11 because Jack said woke. So what? So Shao Kahn uses a Trump quote. Big deal.
Let us make Outworld great again.
Now, I used to be subscribed to No BS and The Quartering, but these guys are like uber annoying. They are against cancellations of certain things in gaming, comics, and movies, but they celebrated the cancellation of the airing of an Arthur episode where Mr. Ratburn got married to his boyfriend. It was cancelled in Alabama because it's anti-family. Now, it's really bad enough when people bitch and moan about the male gaze when it comes to lesbians to see gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders, and queers being reduced to just sex and being called political, you know. They're people too. Get over it. Here's the thing. The same-sex marriage episode of Arthur is to teach children that LGBTQ are people too and they deserve to be happy. Second, it's also to teach children tolerance and equality as well. The Quartering is known for his Brie Larson obsession, not to forget that. Yeah, Brie Larson may be snarky and all that, but geez, his obsession with her is mad annoying. I thought Geeks and Gamers was cool and all, but geez, this obsession of his with pointing out SJW crap where there isn't is just absolutely annoying and ridiculous. When Zack Snyder called him out, he called him, "Oh my god, you SJW." Because, you know, Geeks and Gamers, all he does is whine and complain, pointing out SJWism where there is none. I also vowed that whenever I would watch a movie or a TV show or play a brand new awesome video game, I would never listen to reviews from the mainstream media nor the Get Woke Go Broke media. That was about 2019 when I was distancing myself. One angry gamer going after Castlevania because of that sex scene between Alucard and the twins, Sumi and Taka. He gets pissed off about it. And I'm like, dude, I thought that was awkward, but jeez. I used to follow him but then distance myself as well. In 2020, last year, the final straw occurred with the review bombing of The Last of Us Part 2 and death threats against Laura Bailey, Jocelyn Mettler, Colleen Foch over the character of Abby. In the case of Laura Bailey, the death threats went too far when they threatened not only to kill her but her husband and son as well. That is absolutely not cool at all.
You have no fucking idea how not fucking cool that shit is.
I decided to play the game for myself, and it's not a bad game as a lot of people think. I made a playthrough and review of it. Link in the description. Although, I believe that Ghost of Tsushima should have won Game of the Year and considered the true winner last year. Only reason why Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year is because of game journos. Not to mention also the Masters of the Universe Revelation situation, pointing out SJWism where there is none in that show. I saw both parts. Yeah, many things were predictable, but the art and animation were absolutely astounding. I love the Anti-SJWs because they have become the very thing that they claim to hate. As the famous quote says, "Die hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." And that's what happened. SJWs love to see racism, sexism, Nazism, homophobia, and transphobia where there is none. But the antis, they see so much wokeness and anti-white crap and SJWism where there is none. So you see, I'm no longer in the anti-SJW circle because to me, both sides are part of the same coin. I'm John of Video Games in the World. Have a good one, and remember, What I set right now is to be a little bit more open-minded and have a little bit more of an open dialogue with the other side. It's better to agree to disagree. Blind agreement is bad, yes. But blind belief is not good either. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening and have a good one.